Mentioned at the top of the show the decision by the Ukrainian government not to allow their athletes to compete in competitions where there are also Russian athletes or also Russian administrators or officials, judges. It's an odd kind of situation, but this is what they decided to do. And then on Saturday they announced that they were banning people from Ukraine and taking property away from that they have in Ukraine, from families. I would say one tennis player who's banned. She had bought an apartment for her grandmother in 2015 in Kiev. She's part of Ukraine. It's her dad's mom. Yeah, sorry, it's her dad's mom. And yesterday evening, they got a visit from the police to go down and present all their documents on Monday to show that they actually legally own the apartment. And they bought the apartment, they legally own it. But this is a madness that's going on right now. It's not alone in Ukraine, but it's just going to be crazy. This person as well, actually a couple of, it's funny because in January the bans is also enacted. One was against a former guest of our show, Tarasova Zhenya, who was on with us. For her, there was an understandable thing because she had taken part in a rally after the Winter Olympics last year, so they said they were going to ban her. But this person who got a ban as well didn't seem to make sense, and actually we'll explain it in just a moment, but we're just going to it just right away. So this is a short video.
If Spain miss the next one, Russia win. Iago Aspas. The rest just hope. Aspas obliged. Akinfeev saves! It is Russia's party, and the party goes on! This nation is going to dance all night!
5 years gone past, and it's a completely different world. Igor Akinfeev, he got banned. One of the reasons was that he has two charities funded by sales of T-shirts that have the foot of God. So the picture of him, like saving the penalty with his foot to send Russia into the quarterfinals. Yeah, the quarterfinals of the last World Cup, or sorry, the last World Cup. He has a charity that helps children who are victims of abuse victims. Then it has spread it to war, and also then he has organized fund drives for sports schools in the parts of Russia where parts of Ukraine and so on and so forth. So he's been sanctioned mainly for this, and at the same time he'd also sent down equipment to Kiev, like for kids' schools there. That's been taken, and God knows what's going to be done. At the same time, we've got then a parliamentary deputy, Svetlana Horkina, seen here, multiple Olympic medalist, one of those gymnasts who was a lot taller than all the others and seemed to make it work for her because most of them were quite short, but she was very, very long. You say long levers. We're kind of through the looking glass. It's kind of a bit nuts with this. Very little sympathy for them getting sanctioned by Ukraine because look, that's just what's happening right now. I'll just ask you this: the fact that Ukraine are banning their athletes from taking part. This is after banning their athletes from celebrating or associating with Russian athletes. Where will this end? Will it end with all Russian athletes, officials just being completely thrown out of world sports, or will it isolate Ukraine more than anything else? Because it doesn't seem like it's been done for the good of athletes themselves.
You see, I'm very uncomfortable with that part. That's the part I feel. Look, I feel uncomfortable about a lot of what is going on, but I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of putting the head, a metaphorical gun, emphasize, up to the head of every sports organization, because there have been Russian athletes who have spoken out. There have been Russian athletes who've been very vocal, and as a result are being enabled and allowed to participate in certain tournaments that have taken otherwise said to other Russian athletes, you can't participate. But there are some who are participating. There are some sports which haven't instituted bans against Russian athletes from participating. Judges who may not be living in Russia, but may be Russian, or maybe officials within tournaments, you're basically saying, actually, we don't care what someone's view on what's going on is, whether they've spoken out about it or not. What we're going to say is, by virtue of them being Russian, we are going to take a view that our athletes not participate or be around them. And I think that that's a different, that's instantly assuming what every person from Russia, in Russia, or Russian living outside of Russia, because officials, you're going to come down in that neck of the woods, you're going to be going, well, there's probably a lot of Russian officials that participate in lots of tournaments that aren't necessarily or currently there. Either way, it's trying to determine the narrative, and I'm uncomfortable with that. I also think there is a risk that it will. I don't think that on Ukraine, unfortunately, here, because I don't think there should be backlash on Ukraine, but I don't think that they should be making that clear a directive to their athletes, because I think it just ignores the reality of the situation. Five Irish people could sit down in this room tonight and have 5 different opinions on what was going on in Russia and Ukraine. That doesn't mean you instantly say, well, you can't associate with all Irish people because one Irish person there doesn't agree with what I have a view. It's just it's a dangerous game to go down, and unfortunately, I think the reality Russian athletes are involved in sport, irrespective of their views. That's the problem. You're just making all across the board, and I think that's a very difficult position to be in. In terms of the ban, I think quite selective, and it gives the opportunity to some of those people who may be of the view that they're in favour of the conflict to use the platform to be not being in the sense of obviously killed, but it's that sense of you can use it for propaganda purposes now, which isn't good either. So it's a poor decision across the board, I think, in terms of how it was thought through, of taking stands on things rather than things, which seems disproportionate to what they're trying.
Yeah, no, you make sense of that. And again, we always hope the sport will be above this. It will never be above it. It'll always be used for this, and it's very emotive. And speaking with, as I said, a couple of athletes who are on the ban list, some of them don't give a damn. I can say Evgeny Tarasov, like, doesn't make a difference because my living is here. I make a living skating. I don't really care I have nothing in Ukraine. Now, she didn't like the undertones of it because she's a Tatar Muslim, and some of the things that were being written that were very not misogynist. No, they were wrong. What was being written about her by people in Ukraine. But again, she said it didn't bother her. But I guess as it was one Russian tennis player, well-known Russian tennis player who landed on the list yesterday, her family now in Ukraine are being affected, and it's just like, please stop. And if it's a business person, okay, I have less sympathy for a business person. Maybe I'm wrong, but Andrew, you're seeing from a different angle. I mean, the reaction in Russia has been kind of, so what? And people have been kind of, actually, a lot of people I was speaking with in Russian sports are appalled the fact that Ukraine won't allow athletes or even officials or delegations meet with Russian. They did say, no, we're all friends, because most of these people, bar very, very few, are all friends. We saw it at the last Olympics. What's next? Like, where do we end up with this?
Well, I think the most important thing is you've got to ask, why is a decision made? The decision to ban Ukrainian athletes, I find it's this extraordinary angle for me. Look, I don't think many people on either side, could really argue if a decree was made that, well, I mean, Ukrainian athletes are not exactly going to be in favour of the other side, are they? Why on earth would they? I really am genuinely struggling to understand the logic but behind this. I mean, look, if they're worried that simply a Ukrainian athlete will be in the same room on the same screen as potentially an athlete who would support the other side, how does that even make the Ukrainian athlete seen in a negative light. I just can't intellectually understand what the point is. So clearly, it must be for show. It's getting ridiculous. The levels of, it's not virtue signaling, but it's the topical version of it, if you like. We've got to make a show. We've got to ban everything. We've got to ban things without even thinking what the purpose of it is. This doesn't hurt Russia's image. It doesn't hurt. Well, if anything, it benefits the Russian athletes because they've got fewer competitors to compete against. I genuinely am astonished as to quite what the desperation is to keep going this far. I mean, the Akinfeev sanction is just, I mean, that's just yet another example of this utter obsession with just get a name on a list so people see that we are furious. I mean, look, we get the point. We understand the angle. What on earth has Igor Akinfeev, who's not one of the most vocal sportsmen, as far as I've seen from over here anyway, there have been sportsmen who have, said we want peace. Some who have tried it and then gone quiet. I don't understand. I genuinely cannot understand what is of benefit, and unless I'm missing the point.
The angle is that it puts it up to sports bodies to go, actually, any of the remaining ones who are letting Russian athletes compete, they're going to go, even if they don't have Ukrainian athletes competing, they're going to go, actually, do you know what? We need to show whose side we're on here. And the reality is we're going to see in any of the remaining sports where we've Russian athletes, they're going to suddenly be shoved out. And that's where I think this will go.
That's a good point. Look, we saw how insane it was, whereas the European weightlifting championships taking place in, I think it's in Yerevan actually, and was it yesterday or Friday night? An Armenian, a designer who's taking part, who's part of the organizing committee, ran up, pulled the Azerbaijani flag from an athlete and burned it. Now, there is an active war going on between those two countries. This is like the insanity of where we're going, and we're not far away. And we said this all along. The best thing to do for football, especially given the size of football, was to suspend Russian clubs and national teams of all, from wheelchair football to blind football to women's football to Zenit St. Petersburg, pull them out of Europe, because the crazies will go out with knives, with hatchets, with guns, bombs, and they have no off switch. One strange ban was Veniamin Mandrikin. Now, people would know him. He was sort of the future Akinfeev. Then was involved in a drunken car accident in 2010. He's paralyzed in a wheelchair. Part of it was because he is of Jewish heritage, and the whole thing was that they said that he didn't speak out. That was it. No other reason. I've checked into it. I've asked people who know. The reason was given by Jewish heritage, didn't speak out against the war. A man in a wheelchair. I still don't understand. I thought maybe he was there taking part in with Z or some nonsense like that. No. So, this is just gone. Okay.